we have a project regarding governmental policies on environment and concerned agencies. So in the project, we also need to interview NGOs which are contributing towards environment development, and we have to ask them like, are there any governmental policies which are aiding them in their work or which are inhibiting their work, or as well as to find out what all functions NGOs are doing. So sir, we came across CGR NGO online while searching through it, and we found out that CGR NGO has done many initiatives and conducts many events to raise awareness regarding environmental issues, like competition for students and webinars and everything. So we also found out regarding the Green
Yeah.
Mission Udyam initiative, GRACE initiative, Earth Center initiative, as well as sustainable developmental goals, which the NGO is propagating. So, sir, as of now, we are very honored to have you here, and your contributions themselves are very immense. Sir, you have worked in so many fields regarding environment. So, sir, starting off with the interview, so is there any inspiration you had that you started such work, that you started working for environmental causes? Is there anything that inspired you or inspires you?
Yeah, myself, just like you students, while I was studying or during my childhood, I got exposure to several environmental challenges as well as exposed to nature. So that always inspired me the beauty of nature, that is right from seeing the sunrise, sunset, greenery around water bodies, and being or playing or exploring this kind of wilderness and all that was there since childhood. So that was my nature basically. So individually myself liking or working in these areas had been a choice for me. So academically too, whatever I was interested, so those things I studied, the earth sciences and geography and environmental impact assessment. So apart from that, all my professional works had been related to this earth conscious initiatives, basically related to right from environmental impact assessments, climate change, disasters, agriculture, water, sustainable rural livelihoods, and so on. So it is not specific to a particular area per se. Many people they think they are specialists in some area, but I am more like a generalist, but with the sensitivities. So whenever I found a problem or a challenge, then I thought, let me work on this problem and challenge, what I could do. So irrespective of my academic qualifications, I started working on those challenges, and I tried to bring innovations, or I tried to do research, or policy advocacy, or awareness, sensitization, or through networking, or organization development. So like that, I have taken different approaches, including communications. Communications is through our websites, through my books, like that, or even webinars recently. So all this helped in achieving those common goals, basically, because there was nothing personal and the issues that I was working that is relevant to millions of people, not only within parts of India but also globally, because my contributions are across 15 countries. I could directly visit and contribute, but otherwise every day minimum 3,000 people visit my works or the websites and all the resources. Yeah, this is how the background you were telling, how I was interested and why I was working and all that. So this doesn't come through education alone. Education gives you knowledge, specific knowledge to qualify but it is your personal goal that you set in your life. That is most important. That will give you a direction and sense of purpose in life. And this sense of purpose is very much important to make your life complete and meaningful. Yeah.
Yes, sir. So thank you for that. So the next question is, sir, I have read your book regarding Geospirit, sir. So, sir, in the book you mentioned that Geospirit is the ever-pervading consciousness on the earth at all levels, including subatomic levels. And then you have also explained the concept of Earth Leader and linked it with the Geospirit. So, sir, how did you get the idea of this Geospirit, sir?
This is a very important question. So while I was working on different challenges, especially when I was working on the challenge of this efficient cook stoves or smokeless cook stoves. So I was working at the grassroots level, traveling to villages and all that. So when we find solutions, but when solutions are not taken up as a cause by the leaders, although they are very, very important, like at least 5 lakh people die because of this pollution from stoves, cook stoves, biomass stoves in India every year. The attention that we got for corona is very high. But whereas we are seeing that every day people are dying by drinking water, the polluted water, that is also in lakhs. That is also the beyond what calamities we saw during corona. These things are not addressed by the leaders. Leaders means everybody. It is not political leadership alone who make policies and make the decisions. It is also the scientific community, say, who are interested in how to go or reach Mars or how to go to moon or how to send satellites. That's fine. It's a classical research or that has its own applications. Fine. But unless you solve the basic fundamental challenges of cooking or water or even quality of food or quality of air or even the soil, if these fundamental things on earth are not addressed and at the cost of deterioration of the whole earth, and when we can't ensure the sustainability of the resources or the sustainable development into the future, then how do we bring this consciousness among everybody? So that's why everybody on this born, everybody who is born and living on this earth is called earth leader by definition. It means you have equal opportunity to do something, and it is each person's responsibility on earth. So this common consciousness or the belief that Mother Earth or the Gaia is also an important aspect which needs to be respected. When we respect something, we try to be taking care. So we are not taking care of Earth. We are only exploiting the resources, and we are also responsible for the extinction of so much biodiversity, loss of biodiversity, or we have endangered so much biodiversity. So all these distractions when they are happening, that responsibility is not seen, not even at the national level, regional level, local level, and also at the international level. The climate change, that's a reality. But see, still the global warming is happening. Still the disasters are happening. The urban floods have become a trend every year now. And sea level is rising. Himalayas are melting. So such a huge changes that are happening, negative changes on earth, but still we are not responsible. So to bring this consciousness, Geo spirit, that is Geo means earth, the spirit of the purpose of you living on this earth. I said micro to macro because say the soil, even if you take one spoon of soil, there are billions of microbes. The cosmos is nowhere. The cosmos you could see even at the micro level and at the macro level also. If you imagine the planets and all that, even within an atom, you could imagine the electrons, neutrons, all these things you can imagine. They are also rotating around. There is energy everywhere. That is pervading even at the micro level. What you say at the macro level. So for that reason, this conscious of appreciating the abiotic, biotic, and all kinds of life and forms, irrespective of what they are, because human tendency is in what way it is beneficial to me. What is beneficial to me is good for me. Other things I'm not worried. I'll use pesticides to kill all that. I will do anything for my own survival. So the selfishness that is there among human beings, the non-cooperative, no compassion kind of life, there is no love for the whole earth or the resources or other beings. Not even as a human being, we are not even living. The humanity is less among us and it is deteriorating. Humanity is deteriorating. So calling ourselves human being is not the right term as of now. Maybe there could be very few souls who could be called human being by birth or by their deed. But majority, we are becoming insensitive to all the things that are happening. So this is one of the major causes. For that reason, I had been conducting these geospirit meets with all the earth leaders, so the participants. And in this process, we try to make each person realize how important they are for the earth and how important their goals, their common goals for the whole earth, and what they could declare themselves to achieve as their goals into the future, are seeing beyond the present, seeing next 20 years, next 10 years, or next 50 years, how you would see the world and what you would cause for a better earth. So like that, this geospirit meets or the activities that are conducted within the geospirit meet is basically working for the emergence of this leadership, earth leadership, the global leadership that is beyond borders, beyond the political entities, beyond all that caste, creed, religion, color, whatever you say, race, that is beyond. And the common consciousness is one for all, because you are for all are for you, that you have to realize. And commonly, we need to achieve the sustainable development goals. So this is how the geospirit whole the program or the thing I have designed, and I have conducted mostly in the natural surroundings only all these events. So it is a like 24 hours program. So it starts usually in a Saturday afternoon and Sunday before noon it closes down. But we try to be awake whole night. There will be a small campfire and there will be some earth sensitization activities and lots of discussions of each individual. It is not about personal goals. It is only for common goals these events are conducted. And I'm very happy that this particular aspect has taken over as a movement and it is going on now.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, as I read in your book too, sir, you have even mentioned some of your experiences in the Geospirit meet. So, sir, one of them was a Nallamalai meet in the Nallamalai forest in Andhra. So, sir, you met with tribals and village people of 17 districts, sir. So that is a huge number. And you chronicled your details, like how to mitigate the disturbances, you poured sand in the truck and everything. So, sir, how was your experience with interacting with the rural people and the people who are in touch with forest every day? Sir, are there any lessons we can learn from them?
Yeah, what we can learn is the true meaning of freedom that the tribals that they have, those who are still living in the remote areas, they are not bound by the citizens like us. Second thing is they always respect nature. For them, religion or other kind forms of things are far off. They basically they love nature, they respect nature, they pray nature because they live in nature. And nature nurtures, and their knowledge is far beyond our knowledge. So this kind of fundamental aspects I got to know, and when I go to a jungle, they are my teachers. I'm no more a teacher, I'm a stranger. I am the person who will be lost anywhere, irrespective of my degrees and my knowledge and all that. I'm a stranger there. I'm the most innocent, ignorant person. They are the person, they are the people who have the complete knowledge right from the medicinal plants, food, where to stay, how to spend a night in a jungle. And their way of life is seasonal, basically. It is not always like us having a breakfast, lunch, and dinner. No, if they go to a jungle, they need not take their tiffin also or a box, lunch box. They know what to eat, where to drink water, what is the quality of water. They can sense anything. They can sense an animal. They can listen to sound. They know this many senses are working, and they are living in the real lap of Mother Nature. So those things definitely inspire me when I work with tribals. And I had traveled across within India also to some of the remotest areas. I met the this kind of people living close to nature, and that's why I always prefer to conduct the geospirit meets with them, because I consider such people who are living close to nature and who are loving Mother Earth as the highest global citizens on this earth. I say they are global citizens, not even local. They don't know these political borders also. If we say we belong to this country and this and all that, no, they know only the Mother Nature. Wherever they are there, that is the center of the earth for them. So that consciousness is there. They don't have any relativity. They are not comparing with that country, this country, what is the difference in my way of life, how many years I am living. No, for them every day is complete. Every day from morning till evening it's complete, because they are seeing sunrise, they are seeing sunset also. They are seeing the stars also. So for them it's a complete day. For us, we are not seeing not even nature, nothing, none of the elements. We are breathing polluted air. And the greenery is so little for us. Mostly I am telling about the urban people. So like that, this kind of consciousness, minor consciousness also, it gets more sensitized about these aspects. So which I try to teach during my this courses or facilitation and all that.
Sir, and the next thing is, sir, regarding your biomass.
Yeah, continue. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Sir, so we have gone through your videos and vlogs which you have made in the forest areas, and sir, it's very inspiring for us and as well as very refreshing for us city folks to be able to view countryside in their pristine form. So we hope you continue your work in this field with good vigor and everything. So moving on to the next topic. The next topic is regarding the biomass gas stuff, sir. So you have over 100 designs in this ideas, and you have even implemented them in several villages also. Sir, however, regarding this, sir, is there any resistance you face from villagers when any unknown new idea comes? It is always met with minor resistance at start. So, sir, have you ever encountered such resistance?
No way, because always when you go with I am so and so, when you think that I know, it means you are expressing your egoism, your superiority, your education background, or some other status you are bringing up before them. When you go and meet the communities as one of them, try to understand what they have, try to improve on what conditions they have, try to make them participatory, try to involve them right from the idea generation to the development of the technology. Then you will become their person. So this attitude is not there. Most of the scientists or the other people who are working on such fundamental research also, let us say chulla is to be designed. So I saw as a scientist somebody designed a chulla of 1500 or 2000, 3000 rupees chulla. How is it possible that a person living in a poor person living in a rural area adopt a chulla of that cost? So that is illogical because mostly they had been creating their own chulla for no cost. So it can be very little amount, but it cannot be so high. So that is one of the fundamental consciousness a person should have. Now people will say, no, no, this is the best thing, this is the best design, although it might cost you more, you have to take this. No, life is not about the best. Life is about the adaptation. Adaptation is always a low cost, efficient, eco-friendly method of sustaining this earth and resources. Once you try to demand the best, I want the most efficient car, I want the best things in life, those things will not sustain. They become the best is the enemy of the good. Even good things will not be, what do you say, cannot reach the people who need because you are just waiting for the best. So that attitude that always I had, the way you sit, the way you communicate with them, the way you address them, the way you respect them. So all these aspects when you go to any community anywhere, even where they don't know your language also, but this kind of communications, other kinds of communications will always help you to be or become one among them. These things will sustain the relationship and the confidence and with which we can always do good things for them. Yeah.
So next is about the biochar culture, sir. In your, I also briefly read your book about biochar culture, sir. In that you mentioned biochar culture is a holistic approach that has been historically tested, traditionally practiced, is culturally integral, economically viable, socially responsible, environmentally sustainable, and agreeable as a policy. So, sir, for the uninitiated people like us, sir, who don't have much knowledge about this field, so can you explain in short, sir, what is biochar culture?
See, traditionally, always biomass is generated. Human beings adopted fire, that is a basic requirement for our existence. Because one is you eat food, so in your body calories are generated. That is also kind of energy. So burning biomass will generate the fire. That is also again a kind of energy. So let us say you are cooking food. So instead of trying to cook inside your stomach, you are cooking outside and then eating. It means you are reducing the time of digestion. So you have more time. So in the process of this cooking and all that, the charcoal that is generated. Okay. This charcoal, any biomass that is burnt, either it will turn at the end ash or in between it is charcoal. If you continue to burn the charcoal, then it goes into ash phase. Ash is white color, charcoal is black color. Biomass is like woody color, so let us say. So this particular biochar, when I was working with the rural community, the soils are degraded and their environment is deteriorated and their crop yields are reduced. And as you said, as a culture, traditionally all the charcoal from the cook stoves went into the farm their fields only. It never was wasted. Either, let us say somebody took out a piece of charcoal, he was brushing his teeth. So it means they used and they spit it. The using and spitting that charcoal on the ground has so many values created. First value is it has cleaned your teeth. Now you are getting charcoal toothpaste, if you remember now recent. So the values are known traditionally, the culturally. In those days, people said if somebody is brushing, no, no, you should not brush with charcoal. You have to brush with some other white color powder, and you are very like you don't know anything like that. Now the same people are selling with charcoal. So it was traditionally established. They know the values of this biochar when it is used for agriculture purpose. We say biochar mostly. This particular charcoal for soil amendment basically. But otherwise also it has different names like activated carbon, charcoal, or different names will be there. So similarly, if somebody is cremated, then the ashes as well as charcoal pieces, they go to a sangam. Sangam means where three rivers meet. Finally, this water goes to the fields. It means it is enriching the water, it is purifying the water, and finally, this water is going to the fields, and again it is increasing the fertility of that soil. So that's a culture, traditional. That's why I said biochar culture. So like that, if you go like cleaning the utensils with the charcoal and other ash powder that has values. So are using the charcoal pieces in the walls of construction, traditional walls. Within the walls, we could find the charcoal pieces. So like that, always it had been an integral part of the society, and its value was known, and it always supported the yield, local yields through by improving the fertility of the soils in its presence. So this aspect try to bring up with evidences. So I try to see the remote tribal villages or people who not come under the recent agriculture developments. They are still using, they are practicing. So all these things I have documented in the biochar culture book as well as my own experiments and research that I have done on this particular aspect. So it was my pioneering work in India to bring up this biochar again back to the consciousness or thinking of the scientific community to everybody. So last 17, 18 years, this work had been going on for me. So that way, I think you got it, what I mean and what are the uses of this biochar.
So we saw your work, which was even covered by the CNN, sir, the documentary in which the farmers were seen using biochar in their farms, sir, and it was mentioned that there was a massive reduction in chemical fertilizers and insecticides used in the farms after they started using this biochar, sir. Sir, and also this is very good for the environment because you don't need to burn the waste. So when
Yeah.
you find such a path-breaking discovery, sir, and which is very helpful for both the people as well as environment. So do you receive any support from the government or any government policies which allow you to implement this or aid you here?
Yeah, when I started, it was not even considered as a science, and people also resisted. They said, "What is this? We are agriculturist. Charcoal has nothing to do with agriculture." But traditionally, it was there. So, as a policy aspect, I was struggling in those days. But now, as many universities have also are involved in the research in this aspect, and some policy decisions are happening, good policy decisions, and the people who are convinced about its use not only for local improving the livelihoods of farmers to improving the soil fertility, but it is also addressing the something like the carbon sequestration, which is a major aspect under climate change. So that way, and also the food security aspect it is addressing. So when there are so many values around this particular product, now it has become a movement now. I'm very happy. At least when I started, there was not much support or thinking around this, but now it has become, it is becoming the mainstream subject in agriculture. including the colleges and part of research, and also adoption by the communities. And hope soon the major policy decisions would be made in this regard. Let us say the stubble burning that is happening around the capital region, which is a major cause of air pollution every year. So like that, at least 800 million times of excess biomass that is there, which is being wasted in India. So like this, to manage all that biomass properly, definitely this is one of the best solutions. And I have given the technologies of conversion of this biomass into biochar, and various aspects I have given in my book also. And there are several websites related to my understanding and research on this subject. So these things will be useful definitely. Yeah.
Yes, sir. So the next topic which we'll cover, sir, is the disaster mitigation, sir, in which you have worked extensively, sir. Even in you have collaborated with UN for the Indonesia floods, urban floods, and all the things, sir. So once there is a natural disaster, sir, it totally destroys the area, sir. So what all policies do you suggest there for the environment to go back to their original state, or to like mitigate the damages which occurred?
Uh, Flooding is a natural process, but only thing when it becomes a disaster when human beings stand in between those areas where it is happening. Let us say on the banks of the river, there should not be construction. We know historic floods also. So what we say return period, 100 years return period, 50 years return period means highest flood that could happen in a 50-year time period like that. We know them already. Historically, it happened, but still people are living in those areas. That is one thing. Second thing is unknowingly an earthquake happened where there is no history, but suddenly on a Richter scale about 8.5 or something like magnitude, a big earthquake happened. So that is another kind of disaster. Or tsunamis which were known or unknown in some regions, it happened. So many challenges that are happening, but the total population on Earth is so high. Now people are tending to live in these prone areas, hazardous areas, and these disasters are happening. So naturally, when things are happening, are man-made things like chemical aspects, are including terrorism, or many things like Bhopal gas tragedy in India, the best case study. So all these things are happening now. So this particular aspect, how to resolve? Let us say anything that happens naturally, there are nature-based solutions. Okay, so adopting nature-based solutions, and the second is ecosystem-based adaptation. This is also very, very important. Ecosystem-based adaptation. The local ecosystem we have to appreciate, and within that, how to exist. So this is also important. So these two things people are looking into now, basically as a solution, because mitigation is not the thing here. Because you construct a very big retaining wall against the floods, or many things you try to do, interfere into nature again. But again, the cost is also very high, and the population is so high. Now we need to adopt. Adoption is a better thing, especially in the poor countries where we cannot find a solution per se as it is. So these things are happening, and the government is having so many capacity development programs, policies, including few mitigation measures, and including in Indonesia, that's what national planning is happening. 55 cities are prone to going below the sea level because of this flooding and excess drawing of the groundwater and all that, including sea level rising or climate extremes. Because within climate change, there are extreme events that are happening. So all these things are responsible for that situation. So this aspect need to be looked by the governments, and especially civil society, including organizations and including curriculum as part of their education also. All these things need to be sensitized, because it is not ultimately we have to live somewhere. It is not professionally what we do and make a living, but every person has a responsibility on some day or the other, because even economically it will have large scale impact like Chennai floods or including recent Hyderabad floods, we have seen how much even Bombay floods are also getting repeated. So economic implications are also there. Yeah.
Okay, sir. So next we would like to ask, sir, you implemented six major climate change projects, sir, nationally and internationally in India, Afghanistan, and Indonesia, sir. Can you tell us briefly about them?
Yeah, climate change, as you all know, since 2005, I had been working exclusively on this vulnerability adaptation to climate change or climate change adaptation projects, including developing climate change scenarios for agriculture of Afghanistan, for the whole country have worked on, or even coastal vulnerability due to this climate change. So like that, there are various projects and programs I'm involved, including some of the tribal communities, how they are adapting to this climate change, what are the measures that they have adopted. So all these are very, very important because although climate change is a recent subject that has come into prominence with data, basically it is proved with the historic data of raising temperatures or change in the precipitation patterns globally, as well as the micro level and macro level, many changes are happening and they are visible now with results and impacts. So this aspect I liked because it is again in not only related to the subjects that I have studied, but it is a holistic, a multidisciplinary kind of approach that is required for finding solutions. There are so many. As a team leader, for me, I got an opportunity to work with like people who do modeling and people who do the GIS mapping and data analysis like big data and all that. So there are various aspects, including community vulnerability, how to assess. So like that, different aspects we look into, and then we try to bring the scenarios or future. We try to assess. So I think this is an important subject, and practical things like what I had been doing will always help for future research on this subject and the progress in this direction too. Yeah.
So, sir, next we would like to go to your journey with the NGO, sir, CGR. So, sir, how has your journey been in the NGO since start until today as a director, sir?
Yeah, CGR is, I can say, it's a Council for Green Revolution. In short, it is CGR. It's more than 10 years old organization. It was founded by Sri K. Lakshma Reddy and Madam Srimati K. Leela Lakshma Reddy. They are the founders. So on the day of when it was founded on Anmaspalli village near Kartal, so I was there on the first day itself. So as a community, there were so many people associated who have interested in the common goals, especially on the sustainable development goals and the environment, including agriculture, so including the capacity development. So like that, various aspects or conservation issues of the forest areas like that. So we all had been together, and this journey in the 10 years, although I had been working on several other international projects, but always I had been associated with CGR. And in the last 1 year, I had been more closely associated with the works of CGR as a director. Now I am leading the Earth Center, which is basically a center for capacity building, capacity development for the emergence of Earth leaders. As I explained, already explained what is an Earth leader and all that. So that thing we are already working upon, and our Earth Center is coming up near Kartal. And Grace, again, I am one of the founder members of this Grace organization. And within that, we have done an expedition of Eastern Ghats, and we brought a book also, a very comprehensive book on Eastern Ghats Environment Outlook book. We bought it. Then this particular book is leading to especially policy and advocacy on the Eastern Ghats, because we have shared with all the honorable parliamentarians, and we are soon will be conducting a conclave with all the parliamentarians for a consensus, relevant parliamentarians from this Eastern Ghats region from 5 states to bring up policies, better policies as an integrated approach, not as a state approach. Forests are a state issue basically, but everything is connected. All the Eastern Ghats is a single unit for us. So for that reason, we are working again. And of course, within CGR, the core things, there are several other colleagues of mine who are dedicated and working on like plantation. 3.9 million saplings had been planted, and becoming part of Haritaram, Telangana Haritaram programs or Balala Haritaram programs, and several other government. We had been the lead people for the policies that are the projects or programs that have come recently are adopted by government and several other people. But that way also becoming a kind of lead or model in establishing and proving, yes, this is the way we could do. And they could work that way. I think CGR has achieved in the last 1 decade the goals, common goals, and we are still expanding our work. And we want to expand all over India, as well as we are soon conducting this Bharat Paryavaran Parikrama. So we'll be traveling and recognizing the people who are doing similar work in their respective areas and honoring them and learning from them and documenting them, so that this will synergize the common goals basically. This is what we have immediate plans. Yeah.
What are the major challenges faced by CGR, sir, in implementation as well as getting volunteers and everything?
CGR has done considerable work. There is no problem or challenge because we are involving the communities and our total alumni, what we could say. It is not an organization, but an institution, but the people associated with this are now into several, like 10 lakh children we could involve or like that. So youth or different sections we are involved. To expand, yes, some of the things, how to keep all the people together on a single platform that we are working on. Because let us say you got connected with CGRs, and how our journey could be there together into the future continuously without a break or anything. Somewhere we are always associated. So this networking aspect we need to strengthen. That I think we have means now, because we have now YouTube channel, Earth Leaders channel is there. We have newsletter, we have this webinars, very good platform. We are networking with all the people, and recently we have conducted several competitions. Again, several people who could bring onto a common platform. So like that, we are innovating ourselves to strengthen this networking aspect, because it is not we alone we would do something. It is together we all can do something. That is what we strongly believe. So in this togetherness, we are also partnering, especially the partnerships we are increasing. That is also very, very important. Partnerships at all levels. I mean to say vertical and horizontal partnerships. So that is also we are doing. This is the most important is the survival rate of the species, that especially monitoring we need to strengthen. That we'll be working with more better technologies, especially GPS, GIS and all the technologies for involving, because whenever we plant a sapling, then how it is taken care, and what is the lifespan, and what are the challenges locally, like that, those things we are taking care. Yeah, it's a movement and it's a kind of revolution, and we are working on it. Yeah.
Sir, CGR has received several awards and recognitions, sir, like Harit Mitra Award in 2016 as well as in 17, Telangana State Harit Mitra Award in 2016, Capital Foundation Kuldeep Singh Award. Sir, is there any memorable moment you had as an organization?
Yeah, we memorable is Sri Pranab Mukherjee ji. He the former president, he himself launching our that Eastern Ghats Environment Outlook book coming forward, even at that kind of age. That's a very good inspiration for us. But of course, all the other awards and they are part of our work. It's okay. It is not. We are not working for awards and rewards. They come and go. It's fine. If it is recognized, fine. Otherwise, things move. No? But especially all kinds of stakeholders. The movements are very simple. The movements and what inspires us is, let us say, a boy has taken a plant. We found that once we wanted to see his plant where he planted, he was taking to neighbor's house. We said, why you are taking to that house? Why not in your house? He said, in our house there is no place. So I requested our neighbor to give a place to put that sapling and take care. So this person has gone the other way. It is something like, if you don't have space, you are planting saplings in Sahara. Is it possible for a country? So, but this person has intention. He want to do good. It's fine. If the fruits are given, are taken by the neighbors, that is fine. If the flowers are beautiful and the neighbors enjoy, it's fine. I will enjoy from the wall. No problem. But let that plant survive. So these are the bigger inspirations. Like that, we have umpteen cases of inspirational stories coming from especially children and youth, or even some model villages that we could see in our journey. So these are far bigger inspirational things than all other top things for us. Yeah.
Okay. So does the organization receive any government support? And so what about the funding and all?
Basically, this particular organization, Council for Green Revolution, is not a kind of regular, what you say, NGO, I think, because it is not a project-based approach. It is a program-based approach. It is a mission-based approach. It is a goal-based approach. We want to have 10 million saplings. That is one of the fundamental goals. So when we have these broader goals, so synergizing the government, synergizing the civil society, synergizing other like-minded organizations. So that is happening. So into our this common goal. So that way our progress is going, and most of the people involved is highly acclaimed people. Individually, they have contributed a lot to the society and on environment and many other aspects. But they voluntarily give time to the mission, common mission that we have. So that way, the title itself says Council for Green Revolution. So you can imagine revolution. What again? Council. Council is a kind of people coming together and working for a revolution. So in a revolution, we cannot see that specific project like approach or project like NGOs, regular NGOs, that kind of setup you won't say here, but it's a movement now. So that is what happening here. So minimal funds, but that is mostly sourced by especially the Srimati and Sri K. Lakshma Reddy both together from their family funds. From they have India their own private business. So from there on the CSR, they contribute that way mostly. Yeah.
Okay, sir. So we hope the organization continues in such good intentions and bring positive impact in the society from future as well, sir. Apart from the organization, sir, are there any ongoing projects we are working on?
Yeah, the things I have mentioned, we are working on the CGR common goal, that is 1 million saplings, 10 million saplings, 1 crore. Basically, that is progressing. So we are also working on supporting this Palleku Prakriti Vanam programs. We are working with school children. We are working involving NRIs also in this mission, adopting few villages. So we are also working on environmental research centers in each school, so that every school will have their own environmental lab, like your physics lab, chemistry lab. Why not an environmental lab? A small greenhouse and then all the tools to measure different parameters like that. And we are working on earth clubs, earth centers concept. We are working with farmers especially the pride and honor of farmers. That is an important element because they are the people connected to Mother Nature and they are enabling us to live. I mean to say, majority of the population, because of their efforts, we are able to live and eat today. So we want to bring up that consciousness. So recently I visited 77 villages and brought that consciousness also just before Corona. And the Sustainable Development Goals is one of the important agenda we are working currently. It encompasses everything, and within that we have some priority areas, especially related to environmental, life on land, life on water, life underwater, and food security aspects, including network and knowledge sharing, and also law and justice aspects. So, like that, health education also we are looking into. So some of the goals we have adopted and we are working intensely on those things. And of course, from Greens Alliance for Conservation of Eastern Ghats, this consensus and between member honorable parliamentarians on this issue and bringing up the focused points, especially related to this fragile ecosystem in the parliament and trying to bring like creating an authority on Eastern Ghats together as a common body. So like that, that initiative is also going on, and we are communicating with all the people regularly, and especially with this Earth Center that is coming up now. So Earth Leader emergence for the emergence of Earth Leaders and several other programs and activities we already planned and doing also. So that is also happening, and of course Bharat Parivaran Parikrama and all that. So like this, we have and many things which come in between us. We lot of we are open to any big challenges, and those things also we adopt and we go ahead. So there is nothing like we'll do only these things. We are working for the common good. We are working for a better earth. We are working for all life, not just human beings, and sustainability of resources too. Yeah.
Yes, sir. So moving on to the last question of interview, sir. Is there any message you'd like to give to the youth, sir, to students like me and all my batchmates?
Yeah, why not? I think you are the hope, and within India also now highest youngest populous country in the whole world is India. Highest youngest, the numbers are by percentage also. I think you are the hope. I think whatever in timeline, historical timeline, if you see of the earth, this is a juncture where everything is there's a big question on the future. I think that realization is going on, and the leadership is not at all existing. I can say they don't consider I'm wrong, but the kind of leaders you are seeing, global leaders, or the kind of research that is going on, even for finding a kind of one vaccine for one kind of virus, if you are taking so much time, if there are 10 viruses, how many years you would take? And where is the solution? How many vaccines you have to take? See, there is no limit to this kind of thing, no? Instead of boosting our immunity or instead of changing our environment better, we are working on several other solutions. So this whole leadership is missing, and I want all of you, whatever disciplines you choose, whatever path you choose, show leadership in that route, and never work for money. Money is a thing which comes as a support, okay, but it is not everything. Then definitely the sustainability of the earth will happen. So there is a umpteen scope and opportunity for each one of you to contribute for the earth. Even if you are working professionally on some other aspect, at least you have Saturday and Sunday, or your common consciousness about earth every day will make you a better citizen. Better, I want you to become not a citizen of a geographical unit, become citizen of the earth and strive for the earth system governance. Earth system governance is a bigger term. You can go and see the definition. It encompasses not just people. And try to redefine democracy. Democracy is not about of the people, for the people, by the people, only people. No. It is not about right to life of the people. That is the problem in the whole development definition. We are working only for people. Don't think that this earth is meant for only people. The earth loves every aspect on it equally. We may not be discriminating. So this consciousness you have to bring up, and definitely I will work with you in the future also, with all of you. And nice, the kind of questions you asked are excellent, and within that limited time, your understanding is also very good about various aspects at this age. That I am very, very happy, and hope myself I could communicate you the kind of replies I gave, or the explanations or reasoning that I have done with you, with all of you, the whole team, will be is useful. And if there is anything inspiring, definitely your team has inspired me very much. I see more hope in the future when young generations like you are asking these fundamental questions and thinking at least. I'm happy in this regard, and I wish you, all of you, my best wishes in your future endeavors, and see you sometime, all of you. Good.
Thank you so much for your time, sir. We are very grateful that you agreed for an interview in such short notice, sir. Just today morning only you agreed with me. Sir, we wish you all the best for your future endeavors with both personally as well as for the organization. And sir, we'll be spreading about your YouTube channels as well as your books about information regarding them through our project in our campus. We hope, sir, that your time with us was good, sir, and that we could ask proper questions to you. Thank you so much, sir. It's an honor to have you.
Yeah, thank you very much, and you could share me this document or whatever we have discussed. So I will also share with in our groups, and they'll be very happy to see and listen to your questions. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, all of you, each one of you. Thank you.